So, Christian, when I heard your story about remembering your pre-birth experience, one of the things that really impacted me the most was when you described how you met this being and there was some quality about that being, and you were curious. And once you learned that that being spent time on earth, your soul said, I really want to do that.
Yeah.
That jumped out to me. I immediately felt that, knowing who I am in this body on this time space, earth reality, I immediately was like, I know my soul did that too. And so
I think many of us do. Even if we don't recall, I think many of us have been similarly inspired. In fact, I heard Bob Monroe, the famous out-of-body explorer, make a comment to that effect a while ago. After I had shared it, I remember him saying that many of us come because we become inspired by a being who has come, and we see the potential and the expansion and the love and the joy that's within them. And we just say, I want to do that. And that's so what I experienced. So I love that. I love that he said that. Yeah.
Yeah. And it was, what impacted me most was that, I've signed up I have had a lot of challenges in my life, mostly around addiction and being a single mom for 18 years. Those are my two big challenges. And many, many times I have felt victimized by this planet. And so one of the main reasons I wanted to talk to you was because it was so inspiring to hear that we choose to be here.
Yeah.
So could you talk about that a little bit?
We do choose to be here. And I know it can feel like we're victims when we're here because the level of constraint that we're dealing with here is very high. So and when I say that, what I mean is, like, we feel separate from each other. And we feel bound by, like, biology, what our biology limits us to, and all the constraints of the physical universe, like linear time and discrete location. These things that we think are so obvious, they're actually really alien to us. It's a very, very dense experience by comparison to be human. It's like wearing a heavy coat, like wearing a 500-pound coat or something, and then once we're wearing this 500-pound coat, we say, oh my gosh, this is heavy.
Right.
It can be heavy. Yeah. But the spirit is deeper than that. Like, we know from that perspective that the limitation is actually an opportunity. And so that's why we come. Yeah.
Yeah. I love that. So you said the limitation is opportunity.
Yeah, it can yield opportunity depending on how we respond to it. The key is, so it's not that limitation itself causes an effect, and it's not that suffering is good or something like that. Because I think a lot of people, kind of tie those things together, and then they think, oh, well, that means pain is good. I came here to suffer. No, it's just that when the limitations are high, we might respond in fear. And when we respond in fear, we suffer a lot because we put all this negative meaning on our lives and we reject what we're experiencing. And, we feel a lot of pain. It's not about the limitation. The active ingredient is how we respond, like what we do with it, the quality of being that we bring into it and through it, like how we meet whatever has arisen. That is where the real quality is. So when we talk about, like, I've used the analogy that being physical is like lifting weights on a weight bench. So, like, the action of pushing up the weights can mean a lot of different things, but the simplest way to put it is having a loving intention rather than a fearful intention. And love can mean so many things. It can mean perseverance when things are difficult. It can mean acceptance when something is really hard to accept. It can mean choosing compassion in a situation where it's not easy to choose compassion. There's so many things that can possibly mean. So it's that the limitation is giving us that context, and I call it the counter pressure of circumstance. Circumstance is giving us this counter pressure. We get to then pit ourselves into it and against it, you could say. I don't want to say against, because it's not like the physical world is in any way adverse to us. There's no opponent. I just mean that we are able to shine who we really are in and through it by making choices and by bringing forth a certain quality of being. And that's like, so to put it in a metaphor, like you could say, when you're sitting on your couch, it's really easy to, like, I don't know, watch Survivor, the show Survivor, when people are like
Right.
out on an island and they're starving, and they're having to do all these physically demanding challenges and then vote each other out in this reality show.
Right.
It's one thing to be on the couch. It's another thing to go there and starve and have to make choices. Physically incarnating is a little bit like that. Like it's one thing to like say, so to speak, I don't want to limit this too much with words, but it's one thing to say, I am of joy and I love you. It's another to actually be on the desert island starving. It's another one to be here and be a single parent, or to have someone, to be someone who has an illness or something, and then to see how you respond. That's another thing.